So once upon a time, two guys started a YouTube channel as an excuse to talk comic books and drink beers without being interrupted by their wives and children. Started slow, but over time the channel steadily grew like a beanstalk, stretching into the clouds. Before they knew it, they were the most popular comic channel on YouTube, and their subscriptions tallied into the hundreds of thousands.
This, of course, is a fable. Much like what we are going to be talking about today on our perfectly adequate YouTube channel.
That's right, with our nice, solid 50-plus fan base who enjoy giving us shit on Twitter and the comments section below. So with that prelude out of the way, Troy, I think it's time to finally dive into the title that we've had requests on, dating all the way back to our channel's infancy. I'm talking, of course, about the Vertigo title, R.I.P. Fables. Vertigo comic series launched in 2002 that spanned 13 years, 150 issues, and a number of spin-offs and miniseries. Pretty impressive. All written by Bill Willingham, not Neil Gaiman, as you would assume something like this would be.
Right.
And primarily illustrated by Mark Buckingham. Fables remained a critical and commercial success pretty much throughout its entire run, winning many Eisner Awards, Hugo nominations, and felt by many as kind of the final nail in the coffin of Vertigo before it just collapsed in on itself once this ended. This was
More
like the
fizzled off than anything else.
Yeah, this is like the last thing that people were reading from Vertigo. And once this concluded, they're like, can we bring Sandman back? So Troy, I can think of no better title than this to bring our semi-well-regarded channel full circle as we land on our monumentous 100th episode.
Oh my god.
Can you believe it?
I cannot, actually.
I know. I feel the same way. As we joked about when you got in, we filmed 100 of these, and my dog still attacks you every time you walk in the door.
My balls are never safe walking into this house.
Don't you dare try to pet him. He will not have it. So I think we need to roll out the red carpet,
Yes.
Dress for the occasion. Do you agree?
Yes!
All right, then, without further ado, friends, fairy tale aficionados, join us as we embrace the magic, which is the Fables. I thought you were going to be going a little more all in.
Dave, I'm already a beast.
Ha! You're that guy. Follows a community of exiled fairy tale and folklore characters who have set up home in a secret neighborhood in New York City.
A bit of a ghetto named Fabletown.
That's right. That's right. They're fleeing their homelands from the mysterious Adversary, who we spent a good portion of this book wondering, who is this guy?
And what is he doing? Why is everyone so scared of this
That's
guy?
right.
Well, he's terrifying looking, first of all. But the Adversary has taken over and conquered the homelands.
That's right.
So they've escaped to NYC to find refuge.
That's right.
Yeah, I know.
They're refugees.
That's right.
We got it.
The non-human ones kind of get the short end of the stick.
That's right.
And are sequestered off onto a little plot of land called the Farm, upstate New York.
That's right. So we're talking 3 bears.
3 little pigs.
3 little pigs. Lots of 3s.
3 blind mice, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure they're there.
Any triplets of animals are there.
Right. So despite all these fables living stealthily for centuries in the world of the mundane, or the mundies, as these pricks call us, Fables takes place in the current time, and around a primary cast of characters Bigby Wolf, the city detective.
Right.
Also the big bad wolf in human form.
Yeah, Bigsby, they gotta call him. They can't call him BBW, because on an internet search that comes up with something completely different.
Really?
Go ahead and search it into Pornhub.
All right. Snow White, who's like the director or the secretary? Not secretary. What is she?
She's like the director of like Fable relations and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Prince Charming, a real prick.
Right.
So damn charming.
I know. I like in this that Prince Charming is the prince for all of the princesses in like those Disney movies.
Yep. Just like Jack is every Jack over the course of all these fairy tales.
Yep.
And he's also just kind of like a bumbling shithead.
Yep. Who skates by on maybe his good looks.
Yeah. He's got that ponytail.
Right. I mean, it was big in the 90s.
Yeah, come on, grow up. Then there's also Boy Blue, who ends up being like a real badass.
Yep.
There's also many more that round out the cast with references to just about every type of like folklore, fantasy tale, anything that is public domain, essentially.
Right.
I think the author even said like the way he picks his stories is he looks and sees what characters are public domain, and then if he wants to use them, and that's the criteria.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's fun because most of the Disney characters that are also public domain, like Cinderella or Snow White, all of those are in this book somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Every single one of them. And so it's so funny to have them play greatly against type, if you remember them from that into this. Because this is a fairly adult book.
Yes, there are many, like, shockingly adult moments in this. It has everything. It has, like, sex, violence, language.
Yep.
But it never, like, dips into gratuity, I feel like. It happens when it needs to kind of show the stakes.
Right.
But it's not, like, a really, like, it's not, like, crossed or something like that, you know?
Right.
But it's also harder than you would think upon looking at it on face value.
Right. I actually read an interview with Willingham. When he started, because since it was a Vertigo title, he wanted to put all that stuff in there to really like have a shock value to show more things. And as the book continues on, he backs off of all that to the point where Vertigo was like, you can put more in if you want. But his aspect was less is more. Your mind will fill in those gaps, which I think is a real big plus for this book.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Vertigo is like, if you draw more tits, our books will sell more, and we won't have to go under. So the story kicks off with the investigation of the murder of Rose Red, Snow White's sister, as we said. Bit of a party girl streak to her. Yep. And then we get a glimpse of kind of how the world operates, as well as a look into the exceptional detective skills of one Bigby Wolf, as he pieces everything together, figures out that it was all just a big charade, or a charade, depending on how you want to emphasize, orchestrated by Rose and her boyfriend Jack.
Yep.
So that's kind of the first arc. And then from there on, Rose is exiled, banished from Fabletown to the farm, which we've already addressed is where all the lesser good-looking Fables.
The ones that can't pass as human.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a chicken leg house there.
Oh, don't get me started. We get full-on Baba Yaga in this.
Yes.
I thought the chicken leg house was just a Mignola thing.
Not.
Turns out it's not.
Public domain thing.
Oh, man.
Chicken leg house can really be in anything you want.
Oh, God. It's chasing animals out of the forest.
That's right.
That's about all it does.
All that I know now is that we should write a book just incorporates chicken leg house every single page.
Yes. So in this arc, titled Animal Farm, we get a glimpse of a revolt starting by all these poor non-human fables that want a piece of that good life in the slums of New York.
Right.
And the revolution is started by Goldilocks, right? Who is having a very weird bestiality type of relationship with the three bears, or at least some of the three bears.
Right.
As the book progresses, there's a love story dynamic that starts with Snow White and Bigby. He's always kind of carried a torch for her, even though he's kind of the, the rough detective.
Right.
With a bit of a back history, where he is an actual, like, bloodthirsty wolf monster.
Yes.
Who's responsible for killing and destroying many of the poor, like, animals
Yes.
in the animal farm area.
Yeah. A lot of people hate him.
That's right. He blew down so many houses.
Yes.
He ate so many grandmothers.
Right. But he can pass for human because he has a human transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets to stay in New York City. Probably because people don't want him at the farm so much.
Right. Yeah, he's also banished from the farm. We also have Prince Charming, who ends up slaying Blackbeard the pirate, who's got a bunch of loot. He's the richest man in Fabletown, and now
A lot of booty.
Oh yeah, a lot of dead wives in his closet as well.
That's right.
So now Prince Charming is the richest man in Fabletown, and he decides he's going to run for mayor and overthrow the current mayor, King Cole, who's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's awesome in this. You
Yeah.
get like the backstory where he saved all these people on the run. Just a wonderful grandpa of a guy.
I know. He's like, he's almost like Santa Claus. Like, he's just a jolly old man. He kind of knows how the city works, so he kind of just lets things slide, and like, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, yep. He's good, but they kick him to the curb.
Yeah, of course.
Prince Charming makes a lot of empty promises, tells all the fables on the farm that he can get them enchantment spells so they can live among the rest of the people.
Yep.
Doesn't follow through.
No.
So he's got a bit of a revolt on his own happening.
Yep.
We also get introduced to Red Riding Hood, who escapes from the Adversary into the arms of her true love, Boy Blue, and we get a little background on this through a standalone graphic novel called The Last Castle, which recounted like the one of the final attacks from the Adversary before everyone in the homelands went into the regular world.
Right.
What'd you think of that standalone graphic novel? Because it's not part of like the original numbering, but it fills in a lot of gaps about like Boy Blue and his relationship with Red Riding Hood, and like the repercussions of that too, where so many of the fables didn't make it out.
Yeah.
And this kind of tragic twist that ends up with him escaping and her staying behind thinking he was there and she didn't want to live without him.
Right.
So he's always bummed out that he got to get out of there while his true love died fighting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It shows really how formidable Boy Blue is. And like, all you knew about him through the fables, like, he blew a horn.
Yep.
Sheep's in the meadow, cows in the corn. That's all I really knew about Boy Blue. Apparently, he's also a total badass.
Oh, yeah. When he gets his hands on that sword and that cloak.
Yeah, you kidding me?
Yeah.
God, what a fucking heartthrob.
Oh, you're telling me. Cool down here. So this graphic novel kind of lays the groundwork for Red Riding Hood's return, where she comes into Fabletown, but with her comes a wooden army, assassins, soldiers sent from the Adversary to overthrow Fabletown.
Yeah.
And when Boy Blue sees Red Riding Hood, he's overtaken with like love and their reunion, but we find out she's actually the Baba Yaga in disguise.
The Baba Yaga get you every time.
That's right. Chicken leg house. It's coming.
You bet it is. This, around here, the Wooden Army, this is the point in the series where I was fully on board. Not that I didn't like what came before it.
Yeah.
But this is, even a little bit before this too, it starts telling a continuous story that almost stretches to the end of the series.
Yeah.
Whereas the first few adventures are kind of one-offs introducing everybody.
That's
but
right.
Like, the Wooden Army, I really enjoyed. Because it was like, and it actually has stakes too, which I really enjoy in this series, that you don't know what will happen at all.
Yeah.
That nobody's safe.
Oh yeah, definitely. Characters die. Bluebeard is killed, and you assume he's going to be kind of like this long-standing villain.
Yeah.
And Prince Charming just sticks him through with a sword.
Yeah.
And shows that like, oh, this prince is pretty formidable too.
Yeah, actions have consequences in this book, which I really enjoy. And then like some parts, like you think the main characters that you've been with forever, you're just going to go until the end of the series, but then they'll take a back seat and you'll get more characters that you'll just ride for longer in the series, and the other ones that you loved are gone.
Definitely. Like, I think around issue 20 or so, Bigby Wolf leaves. Him and Snow White end up having some love children. 7 children, a
Litter?
a litter, yes, of wolf babies
Uh-huh.
that can't pass for human.
Right.
So Snow has to go live on the farm with her kids
Uh-huh.
while they grow and kind of get the hang of their transformation.
Right.
And Bigby is not allowed on the farm, so he just takes off
Yep.
and like goes off into the world.
Yeah.
So he's out of there, and so is she for a while, and
Yep.
they actually appoint Beauty and the Beast to be in their roles.
Right.
And a lot of, like, the majority of these first 50 issues are those two
Yes.
in kind of the main roles.
Yeah.
Which is such a weird twist.
Right.
And before that, they're kind of this somewhat bickering couple, but as it goes on, it's like, oh yeah, these guys are pretty good.
Yeah, I
There's nothing wrong with them.
Right, I ended up really loving them together. And then later on in the series, you get to come back to Snow White and Bigsby, and they have a whole huge new family dynamic, and they have extended family that comes in and everything.
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, we find out Bigby's father is the North Wind.
Yes.
Like an elemental,
Yes.
like one of the most powerful beings in creation.
That's right. That's why he can huff and puff and blow your door down.
That's right. Oh, can he? Eventually, the wooden soldiers attack Fabletown.
Mm-hmm.
They are able to push them off,
Mhm.
I think with the help of some dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
I think, yeah.
They eventually get the upper hand, and as they retreat, Boy Blue follows them back to the homeworld
Mhm.
and just cuts a swath through
Yes. Yeah.
the army to get to the adversary,
Mhm.
who he confronts as this big, horrible-looking monster.
Right.
Immediately kills him, and then we find out that's just been like a wooden soldier too.
Mm-hmm.
And the mastermind behind all of this is Geppetto.
Yes. I really enjoyed that twist, and for whatever reason, when I was reading it through the first time, I didn't have that spoiled for me, and it should have made sense that, like, yeah, he's using wooden soldiers.
Yeah.
It should be Geppetto.
Uh-huh.
And it is, but it never clicked with me, and then it's like, oh, that's a great surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also like that he wasn't like immediately evil. He was
Mhm.
someone that I think something happened where a king either died. I can't remember all the specifics, but a king either died or was like abusing his power, so they replaced him with like a wooden soldier.
Yes.
And Geppetto just over time decided like it would be easier if everyone was just a wooden soldier.
Yeah.
And he just slowly like started conquering the world,
Yeah.
making everyone just kind of under his control.
Mm-hmm.
And
It just got out of hand.
he got a little out of hand with all the wooden soldiers.
Yes.
Geppetto, you had a great idea there.
Uh-huh. But
Just-
but he still ends up being like an old codger. Like,
Mhm.
he's still not extremely likable.
No, and he's not like living in a palace. He's still in his wood shop,
Yeah, just
carving
whittling away.
soldiers out of this enchanted tree wood.
Yeah.
And bringing them to life with like the life force out of this what do you call it? Exhumed blue fairy.
Oh,
This
yeah.
husk of a blue fairy that he's like extracting her magic from.
Yeah.
He's the
He's a
real
bit of a
deal.
prick. Yeah.
So Boy Blue meets him, finds out his plan,
Mhm.
and then also finds the original Red Riding Hood,
Mhm.
who he's been making like duplicates of and sending out into the world.
Mhm.
So he's able to escape. He brings her back to Fabletown with him, and then the story kind of picks up there.
Oh, man. I really enjoyed that lead up to all the wooden soldiers finding out who the adversary was. That was like... But that's like peak action in this book is
Yeah.
right there. It never gets as action heavy up until like kind of I don't know, 3/4 of the way through where there's another big action set piece. But then it's more family dynamics as the story continues on forward.
I appreciated that we found out the identity of the adversary this early.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're doing the first 50 issues, as we said, and you find out around maybe 35, 40 or
Mhm.
so. So you're not like waiting 150 issues to
Right.
find this out, because at that
Right.
point you'd lose interest.
Right.
But it's like, okay, cool, I get it, and now we can continue with that. It isn't
Right.
just like a big twist.
But I guess if you were waiting for this as it came out, you would have been waiting years.
Yeah,
For
true.
all that
I binged this in like a month. So Boy Blue is eventually able to escape the homelands under
Right.
Geppetto's thumb there, and he brings Red Riding Hood back with him,
Mhm.
and everyone's very suspicious of her because they just dealt with her as the Baba Yaga,
Right.
who they're still like working over in this catacomb
Yeah.
beneath the city,
Right.
with like this old, like the original witch of
Yeah,
all these
Frau
fables.
Totenkinder or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. She's sitting there just like putting the screws to her down
Mhm.
there.
Frau becomes one of my favorite characters in this. from like that point on, she is just like this looming figure, always in a rocking chair, just knitting away.
Oh, she's horrifying.
And you're like, what is going on with her? And what is she doing? The whole time she's just doing enchantments or whatever, just like mumbling under her breath, like, motherfucker.
Yeah, her and this other like group of witches.
Like this coven or whatever they
which are like doing everything in their power to keep them from being undiscovered by the Mundies.
Yes.
And they're always like, can you give some enchantments to the animals? And they're like, bitch, you know what we're doing here.
Get the fuck out of here.
We're working our fingers to the bone.
This isn't hocus pocus. Get out.
Yeah. So we get a backstory on her meeting Rose Red and Snow White back in the past. We get a lot of little one-off issues kind of in this lull in the action where we find out more of some of these other like secondary characters. We get like the tragic backstory of the Flycatcher.
I love those scenes.
Oh man, that was brutal. His family just like killed and raped in front of him.
It's bad. He kind of gets his comeuppance like later on in the series and gets more of a happy ending for him. So that's great.
Yeah, right now he's put through the ringer.
Yeah.
We're also introduced to Cinderella, who's a tough as nails spy.
Right.
You think she's just kind of this floozy escort, and she's like this cold-hearted like Black Widow bitch.
Yeah.
Who actually gets her own spin-off. I think there's 2 trades of that. So we'll have to check that out sometime too once we get to it. And then we get a 2-part story of Jack going to Hollywood, which I really enjoyed. This is one of my favorite parts of this. Where the Jack of Fables goes to Hollywood and sells his like life story. And like starts up a production company and just becomes like this millionaire, like big, like bankrolling Hollywood producer until he's like told by, I think, the Beast, who's now acting as the sheriff. He's like, you can't fucking do this, man.
Right.
Like, either knock it off or we're going to kill you. And then he has to just like go off on his own then.
Yeah. Was that the, like kind of the crossover between Jack of Fables and Fables? It was like a...
I thought it was a full-on Fables.
I can't remember. There's some part where Jack has like a Jack of Fables crossover where it's like 2 issues of that and then 2 issues of Fables and they go back and forth.
Oh, maybe it was.
I can't remember if it's that or not.
He does go into it like his own... It was like a 50-issue spin-off series just around Jack.
Yeah.
Which I've heard was not very good.
Yeah.
So I've never wanted to go and read it.
It got hot and cold reviews. But speaking of just spin-offs, there was a ton of them. I have them all here. There was... 1001 Nights of Snowfall.
Yeah, which that's coming up.
Yep.
The Arabian Nights.
Yep. Cinderella. Fables the Last Castle.
Which we talked about.
Fables Werewolves of the Heartland.
Yeah.
Fairest. Jack of Fables. The Literals. Which comes up later on in the series. I didn't really like it so much.
Okay, I have no idea on that.
Peter and Max of Fables novel. I haven't read that, but I heard it was okay. The Fables, The Wolf Among Us, which was a video game spin-off, which was really good, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's by the Telltale Games, and they actually planned a sequel.
The game was good, or the spin-off, or is that all it is? Just the game?
It's just the game. Like,
okay.
I thought it was really good, but then when they planned a sequel, Telltale Games went under, and then they didn't finish it.
Of all the properties, it's amazing that they decided Fables was going to be something they'd invest this much money in a video game.
Yeah, I played it. I thought it was great.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I might have to do that.
And it's like a prequel to the series, even though I think they take a lot from the first arc of this, but it's really good. There's some prose stories that were told, Ever After, Pages of Fables.
Jesus Christ.
There's a ton of stuff, and I've only read some of Jack of Fables, and I've collected some of Fairest, but still haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I've got all of Fairest, and I have the 2 Cinderella ones, so maybe we'll try to
I would love to dive
encompass
into
those. Oh, there's also a really good one where it goes back to World War II, and Bigby Wolf leads... It's Bigby, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You say Bigsby.
I can't... It's Bigsby or Bigby, I can't remember. It's probably Bigby.
He leads like a platoon of people behind German lines to this castle and ends up turning into a werewolf and fighting a Frankenstein monster.
Yes.
Which I'm like, yes.
Anytime anyone fights a Frankenstein, it's the best issue ever.
And if you can throw a Wolfman in there too,
get out of here.
You kidding me? But anyway, back in the current storyline, after these like little one-offs are done, we get back and we are introduced to the Arabian Fables. Preluded by the 1001 Nights. Is it 1000 or 100?
It's 1001.
1001 Nights of Snowfall.
Yeah.
Where Snow White is sent to this prince, this Arabian prince, is like an emissary, and he is going to kill her.
Yes.
As I guess they did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Seems kind of harsh. But she enthralls him with a story every night to keep herself alive, very much in line with the Arabian Nights storyline.
Yeah.
And that one's good too. Just like a lot of little one-offs.
Yeah.
This whole thing is so Neil Gaiman-y. you want it to be written by Neil Gaiman so bad.
We haven't even touched on the art yet, but Mark Buckingham, like, I love the way he draws this, where it's like drawn like a storybook. Even in the gutters.
Oh yeah.
It's got like mirror images of just kind of
just
gobbledygook on the side.
Stuff you'd see like in a fairy tale book.
Yeah, it incorporates
like
what's kind of going
borders.
on. So, like, if Little Boy Blue's on the page, there's, like, horns and trumpets along the side. And I've just, like, love those little touches.
Yes. It's one of those artists that it's not flashy.
Right.
It just tells the story, and it's so consistent that you're just like, I almost miss it. How good it is.
Yeah.
You know?
I can't even think of an artist that fits a tone so much better than, like, a Fables book that looks like a storybook drawn. And, like, it's so perfect.
And it also makes it a very quick read. Because, I mean, you're technically getting a little less story because the gutters are filled with this. But, like, it didn't bother me. I'm reading Swamp Thing at the same time. So, like, I'm breezing through Fables.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, like, this is fine. But back to the Arabian Fables.
Right.
So this is one of the last big arcs as we approach 50.
Right.
Issue 50. So Sinbad and his entourage come to Fabletown in an effort to kind of reach a allegiance against the adversary. And they are met with mixed results. He's got this just awful piece of shit, right-hand man named, I think, Yusuf. Who just wants to cut everyone's head off and release the genies any chance he gets. He is just the worst.
Yeah.
But Sinbad is trying...
Release the genies!
Sinbad's trying to work with these people, but they have a language barrier and a cultural shock to their systems here. So Prince Charming is like, no, we don't accept slaves. And they're like, well, we do. so there's
you don't work with slaves. Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of back and forth on that before a lot of shit goes down.
Yeah.
Yusuf, he releases a genie.
That's what one does.
As you would imagine, I believe Bigby's father, the North Wind, is one of the only forces around that can combat a genie, and they have like a fight, and then eventually they're able to kind of use trickery. You know,
trickery.
Your run-of-the-mill Fables trickery
Right.
to kind of wrap the whole thing up.
Yeah.
Yusuf gets his just desserts, and they get the genie back in that bottle, and everything's cool. Sinbad is like, you know what? We're good, guys. I'm going to head back to Baghdad and open up Fables East.
Yes.
Or Fabletown East.
Yes.
And I'm bringing King Cole with me, because he's a stand-up fella.
Yeah.
So he goes off, and you think, Baghdad, what a shithole. But he has, like, a secret entrance to the homeworld of Baghdad, which is this, like, a beautiful oasis where they're just kind of prepping to build up an army to fight the adversary.
Yeah.
And they're all on good terms.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay. We're in a good spot here. Good for you. And then, as we wind down, the first 50 issues conclude with Prince Charming contacting Mowgli. Mowgli. Have I pronounced any of these correctly?
All but Mowgli.
All right. From the Jungle Book.
You're right.
To track down Bigby, because he's got a special assignment for him to go in and basically tell the adversary, we're watching you.
Yeah.
Here's a warning.
Right.
Which he does. He goes along with. He goes in, burns down that enchanted forest, probably burns up that husk of a blue fairy,
Yep.
and leaves Geppetto with not a whole lot of resources. So it seems like right now the Fables are in pretty good standing. Bigby returns, meets up with Snow White, and he gets this nice little cottage just off the cusp of Fabletown and the farm where they can all live together and raise a family.
Yep.
And I think it ends with Bigby saying something like, "Oh, maybe this is our happily ever after."
Yes.
Or something along those lines. So issue 50 ends in a way that, like, oh, that could have been it.
Yep.
I'm good with that. That's a good place to put a pin in it.
Right.
Until the next time we return to Fables.
Right, yeah. And there's 100 more issues after that.
Oh, good.
But, so before, I don't know if anyone knows the history of Fables or not with me and Dave, but I asked Dave to read Fables years ago.
And I did read, like, the first 4 trades. Like, when we were in college, we were trading.
Yep, trades.
The junkies are sharing needles, we're sharing trades.
Right.
And I read a lot of great stuff from you. And Fables I liked, but I didn't, like, fall in love with. And I was like, I'll get back to it. And then as we revealed on our last update, I've secretly been reading it recently to surprise Troy.
Yes.
And, yeah, we're finally digging into it.
Yep. I'm glad. So do you like it so far? Are you going to continue to the end?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah, I do like it. I don't love it, but at this point, it's like, I'm into it, and I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, same with me. It's not my favorite series of all time, but it's so consistently good that I can't ever dog on it for whatever reason. There are some lulls in the story, and I'm like, I don't really like that so much, but all in all, like, I love Fables. Like, it's one of the longest running series that I own, and I've read all the way through, and I enjoy almost completely all of it.
Yeah.
All those spin-offs, though, I have yet to read, and I'm just like, I don't even know if... I almost don't want to taint it if it's bad, because I heard some are, like, not as good as others, and I'm like, ugh. Fables was popular enough, too, that it's always been in some sort of TV and movie development. So I have some notes here, if you don't mind me reading.
Please
on my own cellular telephone. So a television series based on Fables was put in development by NBC in 2005.
Uh-huh.
Never happened.
Nope.
Obviously. NBC would later go on to produce Grimm, which is kind of like a fairy tale-esque using Grimm fairy tales, and that went on for several seasons.
Willingham just got screwed out of this because everything is public domain. So they can do Fables without paying him for the name.
Kind of. He owns the rights to Fables, so if he aimed to do any of that, but like even in interviews that I've seen on like, when I used to read CBR, like he did an interview with them, and he was saying, like, I don't know why they need the rights to any of my stuff. It's all public domain. Like, he knows it.
And
like,
then they read that interview and they're like, you're right. Let's not do it.
Yeah. Later on, in 2008, it was announced that ABC has picked up the rights to a pilot of Fables for the 2009-2010 season. That turned into Once Upon a Time. And then that ran for several seasons, which I've seen the first few. They're mediocre to bad.
Okay. At this point, like, it's oversaturated with all these kind of, like, real-life fairy tale spin-offs that if we got Fables now, it would probably just bomb. You know, everyone's sick of it.
Yeah. Especially
unfortunately.
Coming off of, like, almost, I don't even know what, like 8 years of Once Upon a Time and stuff like that.
God.
Where they were just mining for stuff they eventually did Frozen.
Yeah.
Like, ugh!
I've told you, though, Frozen is an actual
I know
story.
it is.
Okay.
But they did it so close to the Disney version of it that it was sickening.
Yeah.
And I only know it because
you think
my wife
anyone read
watched
that actual story? I don't know what it's called. Snow Queen something?
I don't know. Let it go, Dave. I would love to see something of Fables, like actual Fables to live action.
Yeah.
It seems like it'd be super fun.
And he did a great job with it. And it's not, like, bloated or anything.
No.
And you could kind of, like, pick and choose what you wanted to do. They're all fairly self-contained.
Right.
Outside of, like, the main Adversary storyline.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we might circle back to this and then have it canceled a third time. But, yeah, so far, I'm digging it.
Great. You want to wrap it up?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. So that was our 100th episode, and that was the first 50 issues of Fables.
That's right. There's just 2 more coming, depending on how fast I read these and how long I can fit into this.
So let us know down below what you have thought of Fables if you have read it, or if you are looking now to pick it up and start reading it yourself. We also have a Patreon where we have a twice monthly podcast where me and Dave just chatter about anything comic book, or mostly just what's going on with our lives.
That's right.
as well as a slew of other perks. The perks should be soundproof in this ceiling, is what it should be.
That's right.
But otherwise, that's it for me. Dave, I'm spent. Our 100th episode has taken a lot. I'm beaten up here.
Oh, man, you're beaten up. Feel my lower back.
I will not.
No.
But,
yeah, that's it. 100 episodes. Man, who would have thought?
Monumental.
It is. Do you have any favorite moments?
This is one, I guess. I'll do this one.
All right. I'll do this one, too. I'm glad we got here.
No, but just doing this, Imperius Rex is opening up to even more books that I don't think I would have ever read.
Oh, yeah.
And it's opened up to a fan base that have also into the same things as us, and it's great to talk to them online and all that kind of stuff as well.
That's right, yeah. We've chatted with a lot of like-minded friends here, made friends, and also had an opportunity to meet and chat with various creators, which is awesome.
I know.
So, who'd have thought? You know, we were just doing this just to get away from the family for a couple hours. But yeah, what a weird journey we've taken and where it's gotten us.
I ask you every single week when this happens, and I'm like, what has this show become? This is it.
This is what it's become.
And everyone watching, I'm glad you're along for this weird ride.
That's right.
It's a weird niche of people we've accrued here.
I feel like we've really pigeonholed this audience. And I feel like there's a very close audience that hasn't quite found it yet. And when that takes off, man, we're going to be...
dozens of more. Dozens.
That's right.
But until next time,
then. Yes.
I have been Short of the Max Extreme.
And I've been Ghost Hunter Dave.
Thank you for joining us for 100 episodes. This has been Imperius Rex. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
I'm going to leave all the arm range movements to you. It's going to be like penguin arms.
Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
Knock down all the show.
Damn it, I knew I shouldn't have left it to you.
Okay, I think this... My God. Okay.
All right. We ready? We got... Should I have them under this? They pretty much are. Let me grab that for you, babe.
You recording?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I got it figured out.
Great.